Have you ever felt the weight of your own choices pressing on your chest at night? Guilt, betrayal, greed, pride, they don't just vanish with time. They echo, shaping who we are, haunting us like shadows we cannot outrun. The Stoics believe that the real punishment is not from the outside world but from within. The restless conscience, the prison of regret, the silent collapse of the soul. Tonight, we step into that prison and search for the key to freedom. Maybe for you, it isn't betrayal or cruelty, but something simpler, a lie you told, a promise you broke, a moment of arrogance you regret. These wounds follow us. They whisper when we are alone, they drain us of peace, and they shape how we see ourselves. But here's the truth. These struggles are not the end. They are the beginning, the spark of awareness that can guide us toward wisdom, integrity, and freedom. 2,000 years ago, philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus wrestled with the same questions we face today. How do we live with integrity? How do we face guilt, betrayal, arrogance, or greed without being consumed? Their answer was simple yet profound. The greatest battles are fought within, and victory comes from self-mastery. This is the heart of Stoicism, the art of turning pain into wisdom and weakness into strength. In this journey, we will explore 7 timeless principles that reveal how guilt, lies, betrayal, pride, greed, cruelty, and false power collapse from within. Yet within this collapse lies a hidden gift, the chance to rebuild. By the end, you will not just understand these truths. You will feel them, and you will carry with you a map to live lighter, freer, and unshakable. This is not just philosophy. This is your story of resilience. Principle 1. Conscience and guilt. Conscience is not a silent witness. It is a relentless judge. The Stoics taught that guilt is not punishment from the outside, but the natural consequence of betraying one's own values. When you lie, cheat, or harm, you plant seeds that grow into restlessness and fear. You may smile outwardly, but inside, your soul becomes its own prison. True freedom begins when we face this truth. Guilt is not your enemy. Denial is. Seneca once wrote, "The guilty mind cannot find rest. It trembles even in the dark." For the Stoics, guilt was not something to be escaped, but understood. It is the soul's natural signal that you have wandered from your path. Just as pain warns the body of injury, guilt warns the spirit of dishonor. To ignore it is to invite decay. To confront it is to begin the work of rebuilding. Imagine a man who cheated his friend in business. Outwardly, he succeeded. Wealth grew, status rose. But at night, he could not sleep. Every laugh felt hollow. Every deal poisoned by suspicion. His own thoughts became tormentors, whispering of betrayal. And slowly, people began to sense it. Trust vanished. He became wealthy, but utterly alone. His prison was not built by others. It was carved by his own conscience. If guilt haunts you, do not run. Stop, listen, and let it guide you. The Stoics invite us to turn guilt into a teacher. Ask, where did I betray my values? What can I repair? Sometimes you cannot undo the past, but you can choose integrity now. Confess, reconcile, act with honesty. The weight of guilt begins to dissolve when it is met with courage. And in that moment, you discover freedom, not from punishment, but from yourself. Principle 2. Lies and collapse. A lie seems small at first, a shield against discomfort, a shortcut to gain. But lies are not stones we can place and forget. They are threads, and every falsehood we weave traps us deeper in the web we spin. The Stoics warn that the liar becomes a slave, not to others, but to the stories he invents. With every deception, his peace collapses, his freedom vanishes, until he is consumed by the fear of being unmasked. Epictetus warned, "He who tells a lie is not free, for he is a slave to his own deceit." The Stoics saw dishonesty not as cleverness, but as weakness, a refusal to face truth. Lies fracture the soul, leaving us restless and divided. To lie is to live in constant exile, never at home in reality. And the more you lie, the more fragile you become, For every mask eventually cracks under the weight of time. Think of a leader who built his reputation on lies. For a season, he was admired, even feared. But as whispers grew, his every word became suspect. Friends withdrew, allies doubted, enemies sharpened their knives. When the truth emerged, it was not just his lies that collapsed. It was the foundation of trust that supported him. He was left standing in ruins, not because others destroyed him, but because his own words hollowed out his world. Lies may protect us for a moment, but they imprison us for a lifetime. The Stoics call us to radical honesty, not brutal, but courageous. Speak truth even when it costs you comfort, for truth is the only ground that does not crumble. When you are tempted to hide, remember, every deception is a chain, but each act of honesty breaks one link, until finally, you walk free, untouchable, unafraid, whole. Principle 3. Betrayal and loss. Betrayal is not just an act against another. It is an act against oneself. The Stoics understood that trust is the foundation of all human bonds. To betray is to cut through that foundation, and when the ground collapses, isolation follows. The betrayer believes he has gained an advantage, but in truth, he has lost the very soil in which friendship and belonging grow. What remains is a cold, barren exile of the spirit. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you betray another, you betray yourself. For you cannot be loyal to your own soul if you abandon loyalty to others." The Stoics taught that betrayal destroys reciprocity, the trust that binds individuals into a community. Once broken, it leaves both sides wounded. The betrayed suffers loss, but the betrayer suffers emptiness, for he must now walk in a world where no one truly believes in him. Picture a friend who shared secrets freely, only to see them revealed in public. The wound cut deep, but the betrayer paid the greater price. Whispers followed him, doors closed, and his reputation withered. No contract, no handshake, no smile could erase the stain of disloyalty. He stood apart, untrusted and unseen, discovering too late that trust is not easily rebuilt once shattered. His world grew empty, not from lack of wealth, but from loss of connection. Betrayal teaches us the fragile value of trust. If you have betrayed, the Stoics would not tell you to wallow in shame, but to rebuild through courage and consistency. Earn trust again, not with words, but with unshakable integrity. And if you have been betrayed, remember, you cannot control another's loyalty, but you can guard your own heart from bitterness. Trust may take years to grow, but in tending to it, you plant the seeds of true belonging. Principle 4. Pride and downfall. Pride blinds more surely than darkness. The Stoics warned that arrogance is a fog. It clouds judgment, silences counsel, and convinces us we are untouchable. But reality is patient. Pride builds towers of illusion, and when the storm comes, those towers collapse. The tragedy is not the fall itself, but the refusal to see it coming. For the proud man, downfall is not an accident, it is destiny. Seneca declared, "The arrogant man thinks himself above correction, yet he is already falling." To the Stoics, humility was not weakness but wisdom, the awareness that no one is beyond error. Pride rejects feedback, and in doing so, rejects growth. It is like sealing a ship's windows before the storm. When the waves rise, the vessel breaks. The humble, however, bend and endure, while the proud snap in their own defiance. Imagine a leader who dismissed every warning. Advisors spoke, friends cautioned, but pride deafened his ears. For a time, he stood tall, unchallenged, admired. Yet cracks appeared, small failures, hidden flaws. When collapse came, it was swift and merciless. He fell not because he lacked strength, but because he refused wisdom. His pride was the architect of his ruin, and his downfall became a lesson carved into history. Pride whispers that we need no counsel, no correction. But the Stoics remind us, true strength is teachable, and true wisdom is humble. To guard against downfall, seek honest voices, accept correction, and remain grounded in truth. When you feel pride swelling, pause and remember, Mountains stand tall but crumble in time. Rivers flow low and carve valleys of life. Be the river, not the brittle peak. Principle 5. Greed and insecurity. Greed looks like hunger for more wealth, more status, more possessions. But beneath its glitter lies insecurity. The Stoics taught that greed is not about abundance, but about emptiness. The greedy man never feels safe, never feels enough. Each gain only sharpens his hunger, until peace becomes impossible. What he chases is not treasure, but the illusion that treasure can silence the storm inside. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." To the Stoics, greed was poverty of the spirit. A man may own kingdoms, yet live in constant fear of losing them. But the one who desires little walks freely, for he cannot be robbed of peace. True security is never in gold or power, but in self-mastery, the ability to say, "I have enough." Imagine a merchant who gained riches beyond measure. Palaces, jewels, fleets of ships, yet he slept poorly. Every knock at the door stirred his fear. Rivals plotted, thieves lingered, even friends became suspects. His gold chained him more tightly than iron ever could. And when the storm came, betrayal, theft, loss, he discovered that all his wealth was fragile dust. The empire collapsed, but his greatest poverty was always within. The Stoics remind us that greed steals joy, while simplicity restores it. Practice gratitude daily. Name what you already have and see its worth. Choose generosity, for giving breaks the chains of possession. And when temptation whispers, "More," answer, "Enough." In that single word lies freedom, the kind that no thief can steal, no storm can shake. For true wealth is not measured in gold, but in peace. Principle 6. Cruelty and emptiness. Cruelty may look like strength, but it is only weakness wearing armor. The Stoics saw that those who inflict pain on others carve wounds into their own souls. For every act of cruelty, humanity erodes, compassion dies, trust vanishes, and the cruel man is left in hollow isolation. He may control others for a time, but in the end, he cannot escape himself, and what remains is not power, but emptiness. Epictetus taught, "To injure another is to injure yourself, for you diminish what is human in you." Cruelty is not victory, it is decay. The Stoics reminded us that true power does not come from domination, but from self-mastery. The cruel man believes he has conquered, yet he is the most conquered of all, for he has surrendered his humanity. Compassion, not cruelty, is the mark of the free. Imagine a ruler who kept power through fear. His subjects bowed, but their eyes were cold. He lived surrounded by guards, yet utterly alone. At night, whispers of plots echoed louder than his own heartbeat. His cruelty made him a prisoner of suspicion. And when the uprising came, it was swift, not because his enemies were strong, but because he had no friends left. His empire was vast, but his soul was empty. The Stoics invite us to replace cruelty with courage and compassion. Before harming, ask, "What does this action carve into me?" Choose restraint, for mercy strengthens what cruelty corrodes. Every act of kindness is a seed of inner freedom. And when anger tempts you to strike, pause and remember, no victory gained through cruelty endures. But compassion, that is the fortress that no storm can topple. Principle 7. False power and collapse. Power built on fear and deception looks solid, but it is hollow at the core. The Stoics saw false power as a fragile mask, impressive to the crowd, but crumbling under truth. Such power cannot last, for it feeds on lies, control, and fear, resources that always expire. When collapse comes, it is sudden and devastating, revealing that what seemed mighty was only a fragile illusion. Marcus Aurelius reminded us, "The power you hold through fear is no power at all. Only self-command endures." To the Stoics, real power was not domination of others, but mastery of self. Authority gained through deceit enslaves both ruler and ruled. But the man who governs himself, his desires, his anger, his pride, cannot be toppled, for his power is rooted in virtue, not illusion. Think of a tyrant who ruled through fear. His armies obeyed, his people trembled, yet his nights were sleepless. Every whisper of rebellion shook him. Every ally was a potential traitor. In the end, his empire collapsed, not because enemies stormed the gates, but because his foundation was rotten. Fear eroded loyalty, lies devoured trust, and when collapse came, it was swift. His throne stood high, until it crumbled into dust. The Stoics teach us, seek not power over others, but power over yourself. When tempted to control, ask, am I ruling through fear or through respect? Build your authority on truth, fairness, and consistency, for these cannot be stolen. True power is not loud, it is steady. It does not collapse when challenged, because it is not built on illusion, it is built on integrity. And that kind of power endures forever. We have walked through 7 truths: guilt, lies, betrayal, pride, greed, cruelty, and false power. Each appears tempting, but each carries within it the seeds of collapse. The Stoics remind us that the greatest punishment is not handed down from the outside world, it is born within. Yet, hidden in these downfalls lies the path to strength. By facing them honestly, we transform weakness into wisdom and chains into freedom. Your past mistakes do not define you. They refine you, if you allow them. When guilt stirs, let it guide you. When pride whispers, humble yourself. When greed tempts, remember enough. Every choice is a chance to reclaim your integrity. The Stoics invite you not to chase perfection, but to practice courage daily. Start with one act of honesty, one gesture of compassion, one decision of restraint. Step by step, you build your fortress within. This is the essence of Stoicism, not lofty theories, but a daily practice of resilience. Time, the ultimate judge, reveals all. Build a life so grounded in truth that no storm can uproot it. Let your conscience be clear, your actions just, your spirit unshakable. And remember this: empires fall, wealth fades, pride crumbles, but character endures. This is not just philosophy, it is your path to freedom. Cosmos and self-belief. Build the fortress within.